I only see the light when you're not far, but when you're here, it makes all the difference when you're near. Oh, I see so much clearer. Stay like fire, so bright, burning up the whole inside and outside and inside my heart. Street lights won't get me far, just keep me under the sun.
Everybody, thank you so much for clicking on today's video. I'm actually so excited to be filming this for you guys. I know it sounds weird that I'm excited to film about my dad not being in my life and what that was like for me. But I actually was looking up some statistics when I had the idea of this video, and it just really made me want to share. I found out that more than 1 in 4 people grow up without a father in the United States, which is crazy to think about. It's crazy to think that so many people grow up in a broken home without a dad in their life. And it just really compelled me to want to share my story and hopefully provide comfort for anybody that's listening. So growing up without a dad was honestly hard. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It was hard. Luckily, God, I can't even tell you, he blessed me. God blessed me with my amazing uncle. He has been there for me since day one. I actually took my first steps to him. I'll put up a picture right here. He was just the best. He, would always tell me how pretty I was, and he made me feel so special. I remember we would always ride horses together, and he was just the closest thing that I had to a dad. And I remember one day, it was Father's Day at my school, and so my uncle wanted to be there for me, and he was there. I remember just being so excited and over the moon that my uncle was going to be there. And he came, and I remember there was a kid that came up to me, and they were asking like, "Oh, is that your dad?" And I was like, "Oh no, that's my uncle." And their response was, "Oh, well, why is it your dad here?" Because they were just curious. It was a completely innocent question. But it was a really hard one for me because I didn't know how to answer that. I didn't know anything about my dad. I didn't know, I knew my dad's name, but other than that, I didn't really know him. I didn't know how to answer why my dad wasn't there in my life. I remember growing up at a young age just feeling off. I grew up in a really small school called Grace Brethren, which is an amazing school. Keep in mind at the time it was a private school, and I just saw these kids with a mom and a dad in these big homes, and I just had me, my mom, and an apartment. And I would just compare myself. I felt like there was something wrong with me. I didn't understand why my life was so different from them. And my mom did an amazing job. I mean, my mom worked a full-time job, was able to afford private school, and raised me all on her own. And for that, I give her all the credit in the world. I don't know how she did it, but she did. But at the time, it was so easy for me to compare myself to these kids because I just felt like there's something so off about me. This school's so small, and the only one that doesn't have their biological dad, and this is hard for me. So that was just kind of my lens back then. Later on, I asked a lot of questions about my dad, and my mom was really open with me. She shared with me that my dad was actually a Navy SEAL. I'll pop up a picture of him right there. And he battled with drug and alcoholism. He developed PTSD. And with all those 3 things combined, he became very abusive. And so my mom just didn't want that life for me, and she decided to leave him, and it was just her and I from then on. For me, when I heard those things, it built up a lot of anger and resentment in my heart. I just felt like, how could he hurt my mom? How could he choose alcohol and drugs over me? Why wasn't I special enough? Why wasn't I important enough? And so from that point on in my life, I just was angry towards him. And I felt like, again, there was something off about me. Like I wasn't good enough. Later on, my mom allowed me to get a Facebook, which I was so excited about. And my last name was Adada. It's a very uncommon name. I've never heard of the name Adada other than myself. And so I had a lot of people message me, and they were my sisters and brothers. So I have 4 siblings other than myself, so 5 in total. So my dad had 5 kids. So 2 of them are brother and sister that came from the same mom, and then all the other 3, including myself, come from different moms. So the more I found out about my brothers and my sisters and them, you know, reaching out to me and how grateful I was for that, I also felt a little unloved by my dad each time. Like, oh, well, I'm just another kid that he left and he doesn't think about. And so that part hurt me. But I was, again, grateful that they reached out to me and just had that opportunity with social media. I feel like that wouldn't have happened if social media wasn't what it is today. So I definitely feel so grateful for that. I'm grateful that my last name is so unique, that we were all able to find each other. So as I hit junior high, I was boy crazy. And when I mean boy crazy, I mean boy crazy. I just wanted the attention and validation from guys in general. I wanted to wake up in the morning and have a guy text me how beautiful I was. Like, it was so important to me to have that in my life at that time. And I craved it. I would seek out guys all the time, think about guys all the time, and it led to a lot of bad relationships. I didn't have that standard of what I wanted in a relationship. You know, I didn't have that list of, okay, he needs to have this, and this. And if he doesn't have these important qualities that I'm looking for, that I'm not going to be with him. I just was like, you make me feel good and you make me feel great, so I'm going to go with you and you're cute. Like, those were my standards. I didn't have any at all. I wanted to feel that gap. I wanted to fill it up with something. And I was like, a guy's going to be perfect. A guy is going to make me not have that missing gap of not having a dad. I'm going to feel complete. If I have a guy that tells me that I'm beautiful, that makes me feel like I'm the only girl in the world. I mean, just these unrealistic expectations that I had on men. So during this time, actually, of being boy crazy, I had found my dad, surprise, surprise, on Facebook. And I just messaged him. I think I was just really angry that day. And I just had, again, a lot of resentment, a lot of anger, and I picked a fight with him. I don't even remember what it was about. We were fighting back and forth, and I was just being so disrespectful towards my dad. I remember my dad said something to me that just really struck. And he said, I never loved you, I never cared about you. You've never been important to me. Just really hurtful things. And I remember just it really hitting me. And I remember feeling like, I know, you're right. You're right. I knew that you didn't love me. I knew that you didn't care about me. I knew that you didn't think about me. And so for me, that was really hard. I just felt like all those things that I thought might be true were true. Like, he just confirmed everything that I ever thought. And so I remember that night, my mom was like, okay, well, we're going to church. We have a midweek. It was on a Wednesday night. And she was like, you're going. And I was like, oh, great, cool. I'm going to have to go to church. Because the last thing that I wanted to do was go to church. Keep in mind, at this point, I did not want a relationship with God at all. I was bitter. I was angry. I blamed everything on God. I'm like, well, if there really is a God, I would have a dad. If there really was a God, my mom would be married right now and I would have the perfect family and I wouldn't have gone through all my hardships in life if there was a God. So the last place that I wanted to be that day was at church. I just didn't want to be there. So I went, and it was crazy because it was so God My teen minister was actually doing a lesson that night, and she wanted to talk about how God is our Father and how much God loves us, which is crazy. And she handed out these papers, and on this paper it said, an intimate message from God to you, and then it says, my child, and it has like this long description of all these different scriptures. So it was really cool. It wasn't just like somebody wrote it and like made up all the words. It was actual scripture, which was really powerful to look at that time. And so we were all reading it, and I'm going to show you what it looks like right now. So after reading this, I felt so unbelievably loved by God. One of the things that really struck me was it says, you may not know me, but I know everything about you. I am familiar with all of your ways. And it was kind of crazy to read that, because for me, I felt like that's where I was at with God. You know, like he knew everything about me. He loved me. He wanted this relationship with me, but I knew nothing about God. I grew up with a mom who loved God deeply. I grew up in a church with a bunch of people who love God deeply. I grew up in a Christian school, and you would think I would know God, but I didn't. I didn't have a relationship with God. It wasn't personal. It was just, I knew facts, I knew stories, but I didn't know God on an intimate level. And at the end it says, I gave up everything that I love that I might gain your love. And I love how it says the word might, because there's no guarantee within that. So God gave up everything that he loved in the hopes to have a relationship with me with no guarantee. And I remember just feeling broken by that. Like seeing myself and then reading this letter, I felt so unbelievably loved. I love how it also says in the letter that, you know, he is our perfect father. He is the perfect dad. And I remember coming home just feeling convicted. Still didn't want to live my life as a Christian. I felt like that was too hard for me. But I felt like, wow, God he loves me and I believe in him, but I don't want to live my life like that right now. Maybe one day. That was my mentality. And I remember asking my mom, well, can I have a frame? And she's like, of course. Like, what do you want to frame? And I was like, I want to frame this letter. And so she's like, let's do it. So she bought me a frame and I framed it up, and I looked at it every single day, guys. Every day I looked at this letter and I felt so unbelievably loved by God. So later on, you know, I battled and I struggled a lot, and God just really changed my heart. And I then wanted a relationship with God. I wanted to live my life for God, and I was going to do whatever it takes. I studied the Bible for 1.5 years and got baptized, and I'm going to show my picture of my baptism right here. The best day of my life. And it was really, really cool, because while I was studying the Bible, I forgave my dad. Not only in my heart, but I called him and I said, Dad, I really want to talk to you. And he's like, okay, well, you know, you can call me at this number, but if you're going to be disrespectful, I don't want to talk to you. And I was like, no, I just want to say I'm sorry. So I called my dad up and I just shared with him. I was like, you know, Dad, I was in a really, really dark place when I messaged you, when I picked that fight with you, and I just wanted to say I'm so sorry for just being so disrespectful towards you, for hurting you in any way. And I just wanted to let you know that I forgive you for leaving. I forgive you for hurting my mom, and I want the best for you, and I'm so sorry. And then my dad started to actually cry on the phone, and he was like, thank you so much, you know? And And that just really warmed my heart, because I realized in my life where growing up without a dad had affected me, right? I was really selfish. I made a lot of bad decisions. I was in a really dark place. I went through a huge depression. And the way that God really rescued me so that I could forgive my dad was the best feeling in the world. I really look at it and say, well, how can I expect God to forgive me when I can't even forgive my own dad? And that really touched my heart. And I'm so grateful that my heart changed, because later on in my life, actually, like, I want to say close to when I got engaged, before I got engaged, my dad had actually passed away, and he committed suicide. He died alone. My dad had dealt with a lot in his life, but I was so grateful that at the end of his life, he knew that I forgave him, and he felt peace within that. And so for that, I will forever be grateful for. So thank you guys so much for watching this whole video. If you liked it, please hit that like button. I can't tell you guys how much it would mean to me and my husband. We're really trying to be consistent with our videos. The next one's gonna be upbeat, I promise. I would just love for you guys to be on the journey with us. So please give this video a like and subscribe down below. I hope you guys have a wonderful day. Bye.